Well, like Carly Fiorina, I'm honored and humbled to be moderating a conversation with leaders like the three you see here, and I'm especially honored and humbled to be drawing a parallel between myself and Carly Fiorina. So let's jump right into it. I want to ask first about CEO leadership, both of you, Gretchen, and of you, Irene. It's a pillar of the Excellence Awards, and I want to ask how you've engaged with your company's philanthropy, and specifically the kind of implicit message that you're looking to send by way of your engagement. What do you hope that your colleagues and employees are drawing from your engagement with your company's philanthropy? Gretchen, maybe we can start with you.
You know, we've all talked even in our comments today about doing well and doing good and really making a difference. I think having an employee base that has a higher ambition, they bring their performance, their expertise to work, but being able to do something beyond just the day-to-day work makes a difference in how you think, how you innovate, how you think about the future and so forth. And being able to wrap that up into our strategy. You know, we are a business that's in water, and yes, we're giving back because of the knowledge and the expertise that we know. We've been in the industry, and so why should we not be out there helping others understand what we take for granted each and every day? And so part of a leader, I've used it in a way to help us challenge our own philosophy, our own future, and what we need to do. I can tell you the philanthropy program that started out has become so much more than a philanthropy program. It has become part of our strategy and how we think about our business. We now today are taking examples where we're investing into ideas about playing at the bottom of the pyramid and seeing if we can take our technologies to be able to expand so many products and solutions to people that will be our customers well into the future if we can help them. We would have never thought about that had we not gotten into the Watermark program. So I do it in terms of our strategy, but also in terms of giving. I have gotten the opportunity to go out to see one of the schools where we helped and to see the children's eyes light up by the fact that we helped them bring water to their schools and have bathrooms that could encourage them to come back. It's changed my life. I think about it each and every day.
Any people you met or anecdotes or details that you recall from that school?
Well, I've used this story when I was in our leadership team. We just spun out of it as a company, and I wanted to bring our team together because we are a company dedicated around water. And I brought our top 200 leaders together in Berlin, and I talked about the story of going into India and Calcutta, and this little girl grabbing my hand out of about 2,000 little children at this school. And she grabs my hand, she walks me into the bathroom, and she shows me the new fixtures and the bathrooms. And as I'm looking in this little mirror that's all cracked, you could see this brilliant little girl smiling, saying, so proud that she's got water. And it just broke my heart just to think about what our employee base and our contributions and our partners are doing. It's huge. It's very huge.
Thanks for sharing that story. That was neat. Irene, can you tell us about how you've gotten engaged personally with your company's philanthropy and what the conclusions that you hope your employees will draw from your engagement?
Well, like Gretchen, we certainly are finding that our employees are very pleased about our business. They like to help move our business ahead, but they do want to come to work for something greater. And so increasingly, they've asked us, what do we stand for? What is it that they can do? What larger purpose can they serve? The role that I played initially was really to focus our efforts in the areas that I thought were most relevant to us as a food company, and that's why we chose to focus on hunger and obesity, which really are opposite sides of the very same coin. And by focusing those efforts, we very quickly were able to find partnerships and relationships and opportunities that enabled us to bring our expertise. The benefit to the employees that is really the opportunity to take some of the skills that they have in marketing and in logistics and in systems and bring those very same skills to the work of helping to move this critical issue ahead. And so we've been able to help, our marketers have been able to create master plans for the food, for these mobile pantries, to be able to map out how we might be able to create a program that could be scalable. Our logistics guys have figured out how to get the food from point A to point B. Our systems guys have figured out how we might be able to enable consumers to become involved in this effort. Some of you might have seen some of the fall football games. You had the opportunity while watching a football game to just hit a button on your computer to be able to donate money. We found that so many people are so anxious to help, but they just don't know how to get involved. So a lot of what I have done as the leader is to make those opportunities available. We actually have a week of corporate service that we make available for our employees to be able to do things like we just showed you in the video, where they can go and partner with local food pantries. In this case, we operated programs in 72 countries around the world, as I mentioned. And so it's really providing a platform and the opportunities for our very, very talented employees to engage in an issue that really can make a profound difference.
That's awesome. And given what you said about this week of service, I want to stay with you, Irene, and ask about employee engagement and how you make sure that employees beyond the corporate citizenship team or the marketing department are involved with your work. And do you think that a company does need a week of recognition to galvanize employee engagement, or can it be an evergreen sort of a 24/7 part of people's jobs?
It is a 24/7 part of people's jobs, and so that doesn't substitute, the one does not substitute for the other, but there is a lot of power in galvanizing everyone around the world during what we call Delicious Difference Week. And the opportunity to be able to share stories, we carried the information on our intranet, and it just created, I think, an even larger feeling of satisfaction and reward than we would have gotten had we done it on a one-off basis in individual countries. The other benefit that we find is that is the opportunity for the different groups to share the learning that they've had from one country to another, and this provides a focal point for them to be able to do that. But I mean, Nicole and her team are a very small group that really rely on the local managers to make it their own and to figure out what are the opportunities within their local markets and how can they be most helpful. And as a result, it's really helped us to galvanize the local employees in a way that a corporate program might not have been able to.
That makes sense. Thank you. Gretchen, can you describe your employees' engagement with Watermark?
Yeah, similar. I mean, the employee engagement comes in several different respects. One, just in contributions. Two, in terms of being able, we've got employees around the world who want to actually go out and help and spend a week out in the field helping our partners. And so they get to submit a resume, in a sense, and a story of why they should do it. And we do let some of them go out there. Unfortunately, there's not enough opportunities to let all of them, but they get excited about it. And what we've seen happen from that is in the local areas, people engaging in their communities, taking that information that we're using in our Watermark program and helping in areas just right there with their churches, with their schools, with their communities, and helping people become more aware about water and how precious it is to all of us on a day-to-day basis. It's really been impactful. The employees' excitement about it is significant. It just kind of feeds a fire of going forward of something that they can contribute. And as I mentioned earlier, the employee base is thinking differently when they think about the issues of water. We're a water equipment player, and we play in the high premium performance area. It's starting to think about what the needs are in very rural areas and making us think about that future.
So Gretchen referred to something that employees can contribute. And Cindy, I want to ask you about this idea of donating things, not just money. I think there are a lot of people on the nonprofit side who, when they think about the idea of in-kind giving, get worried that they might be on the receiving end of junk or on the receiving end of goods that somebody else didn't want, but that they want to get a tax deduction for, and there are a lot of nonprofits who think that they would prefer cash support. Good 360 has figured out in-kind giving and done it right. Can you explain, and imagining not just corporate philanthropy folks, but nonprofit sector folks, and explain how in-kind giving can be done right?
Well, I think the most important thing to think about from a nonprofit perspective in in-kind giving is what are your needs? When nonprofits have to take very strapped dollars and go out and purchase their needs in order to meet the needs of others, it's pretty much of a tough strain on them. If nonprofits are able to receive in-kind gifts and donations, they can meet their needs much more efficiently, allow them additional dollars to drive their missions going forward. So it is a win-win for nonprofits. What you're talking about are situations where nonprofits are not getting their needs met by the type of goods, which is why we've created this online donation marketplace that works really similar to eBay, which connects those who have to those who want. We all have had that experience on eBay. But what we try to do at Good 360 is connect those who have to those who need. So our nonprofits can shop like a consumer would, shop by using quotes because they're not buying the product, they're donated, and for a small administrative fee, have their needs fulfilled by finding those products that match their needs.
That makes total sense, and I love the idea, and I now think of donors choosing Good 360 as kindred spirits in this kind of bottoms-up approach to people identifying the needs that they have and being able to meet up with donors in a kind of philanthropic marketplace. That's
Charles,
awesome.
just to come back to the employee part of it, and I think Irene, you probably agree with this, but the employees are now aware of what we're doing and so forth, and so they spot a need. And a lot of our program is around disasters. When disasters happen, we have people out in the field in 150 countries, and they'll call and say, we have an opportunity where our equipment and our knowledge can help. Both Michael and Steve are here with us. They have been on those phone calls saying, okay, what do we need? Do we need to deploy employees? Do we need to employ equipment? Do we need to get our partners engaged? And you're really out ahead waiting to, rather than waiting 2 or 3 days till you get the phone call and it comes through a natural process. It really has accelerated the impact and being able to reach more people.
Yeah, it does really seem that if an in-kind donation begins with a need identified by people on the front lines or people like Xylem employees working with folks who are on the front lines, that makes all the difference as opposed to a top-down decision by a donor of what they would like to give or get rid of. Now you worked on a major study of in-kind giving and the kind of ROI it can deliver. Can you tell us about that study?
Yeah, I'd be delighted. First of all, I'd like to recognize Home Depot, who was the sponsor of that study. We partnered with the Home Depot Foundation. We partnered with Indiana University, Justin Ross, who's an economist there. We wanted to look at the business case for product giving. What is it for the corporation that makes sense? Because corporations have choices. They can either donate, they can dump the product. We all know dumping fees and the associated costs with that and reputation. Or they could liquidate it, and cash is king in times of recession and other challenges, so companies often choose to really mark down and liquidate products for pennies on the dollar. So we asked Justin, Dr. Ross, if he would look at what are those economic factors, because there is a tax provision that allows an enhanced deduction for corporations who donate goods. So he took all these factors into consideration. He published an article that the bottom line, the sort of highlight of it, which says that if you examine donating, dumping, and liquidating, donating comes ahead for the corporation. We have that research on our website, good360.org. We encourage all companies to take a look at it. We even have worksheets for CFOs for them to plug in their own numbers and run their own assessment of what makes sense. Because we believe, just like CECP believes that, and just like these CEOs who I feel very honored to be on this podium today, that doing good, you can do well by doing good. And no one should be embarrassed about that. I always say that to people, that's a terrific thing. Why not? There are provisions that help companies make this decision, and that's a very good thing. It helps our environment because we can divert all this waste by giving it to people in need around the world. So we hope that many of you in the audience today who aren't aware of this research, go on our website, click on it, can download it for free and learn more of how you can do this.
And if they do go to your site and read this research and are compelled and want to get engaged, how do companies, I imagine retail companies especially, work with Good 360?
Well, we work on a very one-to-one individualized basis. So Home Depot is one of our premier partners. We also work with another retailer such as Bed Bath & Beyond, Ann Inc., Mattel, whole myriad of companies, from everything from toys to personal care products. What we don't do is we don't work with food companies, unfortunately, because we don't take food. We would take other things, but we don't take food and we don't take medicine, but we take everything else. So we encourage companies to contact us directly. We have Ellie Hollander here, who's our EVP of Business Development. We work strategically with companies to figure out what their corporate philanthropy strategy is, and we actually consider ourselves philanthropic engineers. So we design programs that meet the strategic corporate needs, and then we drive it to whatever that vision is, and we help them succeed with it. And that's what we've done with the Home Depot and the Home Depot Foundation.
Got it.
I would say, though, the key is what Cindy said, which is thinking about it in a win-win way. I think in the past, we've had programs that either work for one party or the other, and then they don't sustain. And the key to having a sustainable program is that both parties do benefit. And I think having that kind of dialogue and figuring out what are the needs, what our capabilities are, and how we can help, and working together has been a key for us in the partnerships that we've had.
And Irene, speaking of your capabilities, how has the kind of learning and innovation that I know goes on every day at Kraft, how has that informed and shaped your philanthropy?
Well, I think we've been able to bring some of the very same skills that we use in developing a new product to this challenge. And so in the case of hunger, we understood more as we got into it. We understood about the challenge of food deserts. We realized that in many parts of the country there was not access to fresh fruits and vegetables. We understood that it was because the traditional food pantries were not set up to be able to provide those capabilities, and in many cases they were relying on people to come to their facilities, and people didn't have access. It wasn't easy for them to do that. And so in the course of those discussions, we came up with the thought that what if we could make these mobile units the delivery vehicles, as opposed to just the delivery vehicles to the food pantry. And that really led us to this idea of having a mobile food pantry, which literally goes into food desert neighborhoods, where we are able to provide fresh fruits and vegetables. We're able to provide recipe ideas about what to do with the fresh fruits and vegetables, because just putting them out there is not enough. And so it's been able to we've been able to marry the same marketing skills that we would bring to marketing of a consumer product in our foods to this task. And we found it to be a fabulous partnership. And it's led us, as we've evolved, we needed to create a vehicle that would open up on the sides so people could be served. There were a lot of interesting technical challenges, but once you understand what you're trying to do, there's a lot of talent in a company like ours and a company like Xylem, in any of these organizations. There's a lot of talent that can really take their daily expertise and bring that to bear.
And speaking of which, you gave a lovely quote about how everybody can do something. But would you advise the folks in the audience to focus on those philanthropic acts, on doing things where the company can apply a unique expertise and kind of up the game of the philanthropy by way of their company's day-to-day innovation? Would you really recommend that companies pursue that to the exclusion of kind of just doing some good, irrespective of whether the company is giving it a special twist that's unique to their product?
I wouldn't say to the exclusion, but I do think that it's a more robust partnership when both parties can benefit. And in our case, we had been giving to the arts for many years. We are tremendous supporters of the arts, but the facts are that wasn't necessarily integral to our business mission.
Yep.
And so we are finding that by being engaged in a set of programs that are integral to our business mission, once again, I think it sustains itself. I think it really allows us to bring more of our expertise to bear than simply donating money to a cause.
Yep, so in the case of fighting hunger, it really is that you're drawing from your core competence. And in the case of the arts, you're doing it because it's the right thing.
A good thing to do.
And I would add, I just think it's a balance. I think, ultimately being able to have that integration and that aligned strategy obviously makes a program more robust at both levels, both with your partnerships and with your employee engagement, with the leadership engagement, and where and how you can really make a difference. But you will, in most companies, as you're a large company, you're in a lot of different communities, and in some cases you need to do other things to keep each community engaged, part of their community making a difference, and so forth. So you do have some of the smaller, so you can't do it completely in exclusion, but it clearly, in our situation, our Watermark is our signature program, and everyone understands it and we rally behind it, but yet we still do individual contributions in certain
In our case, for example,
geographies.
our largest population in local communities are our factories.
Yeah.
And they're making food. And so inherently giving them the opportunity to take their passion and their expertise and benefit their local communities has turned out to be a fabulous combination for us.
Got it. Gretchen, I'm so glad you brought up partnerships, because I wanted to ask you about yours. You have this roster of incredible organizations, from Mercy Corps to Avena, that you partner with. How do you pick your partners, what are you looking for in selecting this kind of a pantheon of best of breed organizations working on the water
It's a great
crisis?
question, and it did take us some time as we laid out where we wanted to go. And Angela really drove a lot of this. Again, taking our business knowledge and our skills and running it like a program. You know, when you look at Xylem, you know, we sell sustainability to our customers. And the one thing that was critical in selecting our program was that it was a sustainable program. And so we looked at hundreds of NGOs in the water field, and there's lots of them, and we wanted someone that had a sustainable model, someone that could, you know, go into a region, help in terms of bringing clean, fresh water to a school, be able to help with sanitation, and then not just walk away, but make sure that it was a sustainable answer. You see many times, we've all been talking about water in critical areas, and you go in, you help, you walk away, and ultimately it doesn't help. That's why we started and focused in schools. We see that as a central point to a community where kids are there, they go home, they talk about what they've learned, it brings the parents engaged, and it kind of becomes the centerpiece where they come together as a community and they go from there. And so we talked with partners around what their philosophy was, how they actually engaged in the community, and then what was their follow-up, and how did they ensure that the investments were actually being continued. And it was getting the local involvement both from the schools, from the local leaders, and that's really played out extremely well. The other thing is, you know, we have focused in rural areas, and we've taken our communities where we've got, you know, Brazil, take Avena. You know, one of the things that's important to us, we've got a team that's growing there and they want to be engaged, so they can actually be actively engaged as much as possible, and it helps that sustainability stay alive and engaged.
Got it. Well, I think we'll conclude this conversation with a question I'd like to ask of each of you, and that is to share with the group an insight that you've had over the last year or a lesson that you've learned over the last year that you think could inform the work of your peers who are here tonight. Cindy, could I ask you to kick it off with a lesson learned, an insight, an observation that you've had over the last year in the work that you do, which you think could be relevant to the folks in the room?
I think an important observation is it takes the work of many collectively organized to really drive your vision and to make it sustainable. So we as an organization rebranded about a year ago in April from Gifts in Kind International to Good 360. And one of the lessons I learned is that we took this rich history, came out with a new brand, and we have to take all our partners with us as we sort of drove this new vision forward. And collectively, that took a different type of energy and focus to do that and to engage more people, because you realize as a CEO that the greatest impact that you want to make always comes with the collection of more and more partners. We really value our corporate partners, and we value our nonprofits who have grown now to 28,000, close to 30,000. But let's be real, there are over 1 million nonprofits in this country. I'd like to be back in a year in your shoes and say, we're at 150,000 nonprofits who are getting products, and I'd like to be, as Carly said, 125 of the Fortune 500. I'd like to be at 499. There's always that one that doesn't join. So the lesson learned is, in order to make your vision work, it takes a lot of work of others, and to keep growing your circle, inviting people in, and helping you be informed to really drive your vision.
Irene, a lesson or an insight, an observation over the last year that could be relevant?
I think the biggest lesson I've learned is that when our philanthropy can be tied to a business purpose, it is able to there's a much larger following, and it's able to sustain itself. The worry in a number of these initiatives is always, it could be my pet project, and when I'm not there, it might die. And the opportunity to embed this is really, I'm finding, is by relating things like hunger and obesity, sustainability, by really embedding them in a business purpose. And I feel that will enable them to then live on.
Great. Gretchen?
I'd have to second Irene from the perspective of having just stepped away and spun our company and making this part of our vision and who we are each and every day, and getting the engagement by the full employee base. makes a huge difference. It does open up doors that I never thought were possible. It breaks down barriers in the organization, where there's always good competition across, different divisions in the organization. But this is that rallying call in the organization that everyone can come together because it is making a difference in the world. And I truly think it's made much more of an impact and built a spirit in the organization that I would have never dreamed of.
Got it. Well, I taught history at a public high school in the Bronx for 5 years. That's where I began DonorsChoose.org. And so I have moderated discussions before, usually between restless teenagers. This conversation was just incredible, and I certainly never thought that I would be moderating a discussion between 3 CEOs like these. I hope that folks learned as much from their remarks as I did, and let's give them a round of applause.